Hi, my name is Dr. Katie VanValin, and I'm an assistant extension professor with the University of Kentucky. Today on Beef Minutes, I want to talk about some recent changes that were made to the UK Beef IRM mineral specifications. So, the UK Beef IRM committee puts out mineral specifications for a basic cow-calf mineral, a high mag mineral, and a stocker mineral that includes an ionophore. And periodically, we make changes to these recommendations based on new research or changes in product availability. And so the last time that the mineral specification was updated was in 2017, following the release of a new edition of the Beef NRC, which came out in 2016. The Beef NRC, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, is basically a big book that holds all of the nutrient requirements for cattle in it. And it's something that us as nutritionists use quite a bit when we're looking at formulating rations for cattle. And so when that new edition came out in 2016, there was one change in the mineral requirements for cattle, and that was with cobalt. And it increased the cobalt requirement from 0.1 parts per million to 0.15 parts per million on a total diet basis. And so we saw a change in the basic cow-calf mineral, but not in the high mag mineral. So at this time, we decided to increase the cobalt inclusion in the high mag mineral from 10 parts per million to 12 parts per million. The other change we made to the high mag mineral was with magnesium itself. Previously, the beef iron mineral called for a perled form of magnesium oxide that is no longer available at this time. And so we took that requirement off and recognized that that's going to leave us with using a granular or powdered form of magnesium oxide. And that may be less palatable to our cattle. And so we decreased the magnesium inclusion from 14% to 12%. The other thing that we did was added in dehydrated molasses to be included at 50 pounds per ton, or an additional 50 pounds of dried distillers grains to aid with palatability of the high mag mineral. The next change that we made was to the manganese inclusion in the basic cow-calf mineral. Manganese requirements for cattle range from 20 parts per million for growing cattle up to 40 parts per million for mature cows. Forages are often adequate in manganese concentrations, meaning that they oftentimes have a greater concentration of manganese than 40 parts per million. That's been shown in research as well as in spot samples that were collected from the Little Research Center in Woodford County, Kentucky. We also discussed with the veterinary diagnostic lab, and they shared that rarely they see a manganese deficiency on its own. When they do see manganese deficiency issues, it is usually with additional trace mineral deficiencies, which is a reflection of no supplemental trace minerals at all. However, we know that manganese in the plant is found in the cell wall, and so as that plant matures, there may be less manganese available to the animal when they consume that forage. And so we don't have a really great understanding of how that occurs and when that occurs. And so we aren't going to be comfortable with completely pulling manganese from the mineral supplement, but we did feel like we could decrease it in that basic cow-calf mineral. As I mentioned, it was at 5,000 parts per million in the 2017 edition versus 3,750 parts per million in the high mag mineral and 3,700 parts per million in the stocker mineral. So in this 2021 update, we decreased the basic cow-calf manganese inclusion to 3,750 parts per million, with the high mag mineral and the stocker mineral in having 3,700 and 3,000 parts per million. We did not want to further decrease the manganese inclusion in the high mag mineral as well as the stocker mineral, because we know that high mag minerals and minerals that contain an ionophore can have variability with mineral intake. So we didn't want to run the risk that we decrease the manganese concentration in situations where we know that mineral intake may be lower than our targeted 3 to 4 ounces. So with that decrease in manganese within the supplement, we are supplying about 70% of the cow's manganese requirement from that supplement alone, assuming adequate intake. So we feel comfortable with that. And by decreasing the manganese concentration in that basic cow-calf mineral, we can keep ourselves from over supplementing minerals that aren't necessary. So that's basically sums up the changes that we've made for the 2021 Beef IRM mineral specifications. If you have any questions about the Beef IRM mineral program, where to find these specifications, or where to get this mineral mix in your local area, I encourage you to reach out to your county extension agent for further information. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Beef Minutes, and we'll see you again next week.